Today is the 8th day in the octave of Christmas, completing the third most holy week of our liturgical year as Catholics, behind Holy Week and Easter week. So we have been celebrating all week long the incarnation of the Son of God from Mary. What a profound, profound image that we should have in our head. We should be pondering that question, what child is this? And all week long, that's what we've been kind of doing, is looking on our Christmas scenes and seeing this homeless child that was born in a stable and asking ourselves, what made him so different? And of course, as we reflect upon that and we recognize that, we also begin to realize that his difference is profound, well beyond just his generation, but for all time. But you know, it's an interesting thing. The Church now has taken this 8th day in the octave of Christmas and designated it as a day to venerate the motherhood of Mary, the Mother of God. To venerate the motherhood of Mary. And you know, it's interesting because we sometimes don't really think much about it as Catholics. And of course, we know that Mary holds a special place in the Church, but we don't think about it all that much. But think about this for a second. From biblical times, from when Jesus was walking the earth, Mary's role was always seen as unique, as something to be venerated, to the point where someone approaches Jesus and says, "Blessed is the womb that bore you, blessed the breast that fed you," reflecting even then that if this is truly the Son of God, well, this mother then also has a very special place. Now think about it, and I have to be open and honest about this right up front. I've never had a child. I've never borne a child. I will never have that opportunity to bear a child. But from what I am told and from what I've seen and heard, there's something unique about the connection between a mother and a child. A mother who bears that child within her body, holds on to that child within her body, shares food and nourishment with that child for those months, can hear and feel everything that's going on. A special bond between the mother and child is bar none. And I don't care what all those people out there that want us to wake up and see something else, that's true. You women have a very unique relationship with your children. And in Mary's case, sometimes we want to think that God just plopped a baby into her belly. It didn't happen that way. The Lord took flesh from her, not despite her. She is the one that provides the flesh for the Word to become flesh. And so her place in salvation history is unique. And that's why from the very first moments, we've always said that Mary has to hold a very special place, a very important place in our lives as Catholics. And I think so often sometimes that kind of gets a little misunderstood. I mean, I think it was unfortunate, and I kind of remember in the 70s and 80s that there were a lot of people that were pushing Mary aside and saying, oh, she shouldn't be so important. She shouldn't be held in such high regard. She should be just like, treated like anybody else. And I think that was unfortunate because those who did that kind of gave people the sense that she really wasn't that unique. And yet she was. If you go back and you look at history and you study history and you figure out what happened in the early years of the church especially, the creed that we're going to recite in a few moments, we have that formula because of Mary, because of the mother who becomes known as the Mother of God, who gave flesh to the Word. And if you want to go study church history, it's a very fascinating period, those first couple of hundred years until when we finally have the creed settled. But there was a lot of controversy of calling her Mother of God because she's not God's mother. God had existed before time, and yet she is the Mother of God. And so that special, unique role that Mary has held down through the centuries is one that I have to say really helps me. It really does help me to pray to Mary, to ask for her intercession. It has helped me in my life so many times. I can't say, how many countless times when I have made that consecration to Mary and said to her, you are my mother as well. Protect me, guide me, lead me, bring my intentions to your Son. And it's made such a huge difference. And so for us as Catholics especially, I think it's important that we keep her as a central part of our spirituality. Jesus, of course, being the main thing, but then we have to understand her connection to Jesus and the role that she plays. Think about it. Twice now, we've heard in Luke's gospel him use an expression, she treasured all of these things in her heart. Not Joseph and Mary treasured all these things in her heart. Only the Blessed Mother. Last Sunday and today, he used that expression. And I find that so telling because that says she also recognized something as well. For someone who had an angel tell her that what's in your womb is the Son of God, still treasuring what's going on, all the marvelous things that are happening. Angels proclaiming, shepherds coming, even when she finds him in the temple, as we heard this last weekend, treasuring those things. Wow. Isn't that what you mothers do, though? And so, yes, Mary holds a special place. In my previous assignment, there was a young woman. I was having a conversation with her at one point, and we got to talking about the Rosary, and she looked at me and goes, "Oh, I hate the Rosary." I was like, wow, that's pretty strong words. Hate the Rosary? How could you possibly hate the Rosary? I love praying my Rosary. I pray it all the time. I love having the Rosary. And she confessed, and she said to me, listen, I got to tell you, Father, when I was growing up, we did the family Rosary, and it was one of these obligatory, mandatory things where we just got it over with, and I never enjoyed it, and it was just such a hard thing that at this point now, I want nothing to do with the Rosary. Which for me as a pastor was unfortunate because I want everybody praying the Rosary. I want everybody praying the Rosary all the time. And it's unfortunate that her experience was such that it became so mechanical and so antiseptic that it was no longer really truly prayer. But I encourage all of you, especially now as this year unfolds, pray the Rosary every day. I sometimes pray it a couple of times a day. It's not a terrible thing. In fact, there was a point in my own life, I almost never prayed the Rosary. There was a point, before my reversion especially, I never prayed the Rosary. And I could tell you stories about when I did start to pray the Rosary, how my life has changed. And how when I pray the Rosary regularly, it just seems that my life is so much more at peace and so much more, I'm so much more able to live the faith and to do the things that I'm called to do. And so I encourage all of you to pray the Rosary. And guess what? We've got a brand new In a Year from Ascension Press. It's a great new In a Year thing that I'm going to ask each and every one of you to do every day in the coming year, and it's called Rosary in a Year. Now, I'm kind of wondering how he's going to get 365 episodes out of Rosary in a Year. He keeps talking about the pattern he's going to follow and the things he's going to do. But Rosary in a Year. I listened to the first episode this morning. It dropped this morning as it was supposed to. I listened to it. Father Mark Mary did a fantastic job. He didn't do the Rosary today. He's going to do the Rosary later in the year, but he's trying to help people to understand where the Rosary fits in our spirituality. And he's going to spend time on the different mysteries. He's going to spend time saying where they come from, how it's so biblically connected. He's going to go through all of that in the course of the year. But what he said this morning really struck me when I listened to it, because he said, but we have to be in a receptive state if we want to pray. So I think what he's going to be doing with this is not making it something mechanical, but making it something prayerful. Whenever we go to pray, his point was, we need to be receptive. We've got to wait for God to respond to our initiative. And so we say in the name of the Father, we say, Lord, here I am, I come before you now, and now wait for him to speak back. And at that point then, we can start our prayer and start our meditations and start moving closer to God. And I just thought that was such a profound insight. And I'm looking forward to the 364 that are going to follow, because it's going to be an interesting journey. I can guarantee you that. And so all of you, if you could, you can look it up. It's on every podcast, whatever thing out there. It's on YouTube. It's on all those different channels. So you can find it somewhere. And just each day, take those few minutes and embellish your relationship with the Blessed Mother. Dive into, especially if you struggle a little bit with praying the Rosary, maybe Father Mark Mary is the one you need to help you recapture that. I know for me, from those times when I wandered away, I kind of wished I had had something like that so that I could have understood better what it was that I was supposed to be about. Make no mistake, though, today we celebrate the Motherhood of Mary, Mother of the Church, Mother of us all. We come to her as her children. We lay before her all of our needs and our wants that she can intercede and then bring them to her Son. Nobody has a more unique relationship with Jesus, the second person of the Trinity, than Mary did and still does. And so, this year coming especially, we ought to once again recapture Mary's role Not just her role ecclesially, but personally. Her role for each and every one of us. Her love for each and every one of us. Her place in the lives of each and every one of us. And so I strongly encourage you, try to pick up the Rosary this year, do the Rosary in a Year podcast, and spend a little more time appreciating who this woman is as you try to answer the question, what child is this? Because this is her child. And so she is special, she is unique, and there'll be no other woman like her ever again. And so as we go forward in our Christmas season, as we continue our Christmas celebration, both next weekend and the weekend following, we're going to celebrate the Epiphany, of course. What child is this? Well, the three kings wanted to know. What child is this? God is going to speak on the mountaintop at the baptism of the Lord. This is my beloved Son. What child is this? Not only is the Son of God, but also the Son of Mary. And so the intercession of the Blessed Mother, I pray for you that in the coming days and weeks and months, your love for Jesus Christ will grow through the intercession of his mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary. God bless you.